And you see what happens now is this is where the sheriffs now bring justice back for the deceit.
Yes.
Under the Crown Law Instruments, because they are the power on the land and the law enforcement on the land, they are the courts on the land, and we are developing up the Parliament, which we're calling the Council of Commons, which is the Commons Council, which is under the Crown. Everything has to come back under our Crown Law Instruments. Now, someone might not be wearing that crown. It is ours. It will centre on an empty throne. I do not care. Well, those kings and queens have done it nice and politely. They are ours. So, guys, deceit is fraud. Fraud comes under the Crimes Act 1914. Therefore, all proceeds of crimes come back to the people, which means we sheriffs are going to go out and get that back to the people. However, it needs to be administered, as you said, Matt, and the administration of it needs to be put through the Senate, which is the only political system left under the Council of Commons, which is what they call the faceless men in Canberra. Canberra is a parliament, but the word parliament means Council of Commons, Commons Council. So remove the word parliament, wash Canberra out, get back to Melbourne where your actual original stone is laid. Melbourne's your capital of Australia, and get the country back, and make sure every one of these people that caused the deceit stop and caused this poverty and caused all the unemployment because they were so greedy to get the gold and keep the gold profiteering. And probably one other point I will put on this video, guys. My dad died in 1999. When he passed over, I said bye to my father and rest up, Dad. See you one day. I didn't know they were still trading off my father's Sedicate trust while he was dead. Every day my dad's dead, he's still trading.
Because they kept the money, that's
all
why
this money. They kept the money. But they're cunning. Under the trust document and under the Sedicate Trust 1666, what it said is the day my father died, and I can tell you it's 2nd of May 1999, God bless my soul, I had a beautiful father. That very day they made stock exchange rate on my father, which would have been the $246,000 the day my dad died. And guess what? They traded on him. He was alive on the farm. They tipped his milk down the road. Because guess what they wanted to do? They wanted all milk cartons to come, and here's their big plan for all these years, and we've got it here now. Woolworths and Coles are controlling milk. Right? They are. Woolworths and Coles are controlling milk. No said and done. But what they've done now, instead of having 20 little farmers with children and families and farms, shut them all down, and they tipped their milk out so that they got depleted. They put one great big milk thing, they took over what's called the, it's in the tip of Tassie, the Van Diemen's Land horticultural property, and sold it to the Chinese. A lovely woman called Jan Cameron had the money to buy it. She's from Tasmania. They said no to Jan. They sold it cheaper to China. Here's where the issue's coming in, because now we're coming right up to the global elites, aren't we? End of story. We'll stop on that, because this is about Australia.
Yeah.
So you do realise they went into mass production because Coles and Woolworths only wanted mass production. They only wanted to deal with 2 or 3 places. Now, Prince Charles is getting cunning. He says, we've got all this happening in the States. He's now controlling them, Coles and Woolworths. He doesn't want the little farmers' supermarkets. He wants them gone too. So it was the milk first in the supermarkets, then it'll be the vegetables, then it'll be the next one, then it'll be the building industry. The building industry, they're going to want you to go to Sydney and Melbourne, but they're going to build you little houses where you actually sleep in a bed. You get your bed, they do it in China now. Underneath your bed, when you pull it out, is your kitchen sink. So all you're getting is a room the size of a bed. And that's how people are living in China. Yeah. So this is what they want. They don't want builders, because they want to stop you.
They just want us to work for them, that's it.
Yes.
So they can have their lifestyle.
They actually don't want that. They've put the army in now in Melbourne, and the army has got them as carpenters. We don't have an army. Scott Morrison re-skilled them. So when you start talking military and army, we don't have
Well, I
them.
mean, what happened to the bloomin' guys that joined the military not to be a carpenter? They joined to be a soldier.
Thank
Soldier,
you.
yeah.
Hello.
How did they get? But then again, they're forced. We're crowding.
Yeah,
You know, it's the same as sheep and cows.
Yeah,
They come
yeah.
out of
Yes.
the big
Yep.
yeah.
200 acre property. You get them into the 5 acre paddock. Then you bring them into the 1 acre
Yeah, they-
paddock overnight. You want to take them to the stockyards tomorrow to
Yeah.
be slaughtered. You put them in the cow shed and then load them to the truck. End of story.
They
And
did
that's all
it
we're done.
when the war finished,
Yeah.
and
So-
they attracted all our young people into the towns,
Yep.
But before we rub that off,
Yeah.
Auckland and
one
stuff.
question?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
You got 246,000,
Yep.
that's per year?
No, day.
No.
That's per day, oh, that's what my calculation was at.
No, well, it's just a rough.
But they only 15 million.
Calculation will be
Remember,
really out.
remember when we were up here and you were born at 7 kilos and gold
Simple.
traded on, there was 7 kilos of gold put aside when I
Okay.
was born. My daughter Rachel was 7'2", Kenneth was 6'15". Oh, poor 80. I've forgotten my own
Didn't
80's
count.
birth weight, isn't that terrible? 6'15" for Kenneth and 7'2" for Rachel. That was putting gold in Rome. So say it's £7 overnight, which is per ounce,
In the day.
2,200 per ounce. Overnight's $200,000 a day on the stock exchange.
And I can tell you that if you Google the Grand Canyon, you'll see machinery that digs for gold, and it is not moving because there's way too much gold for every person in this
Well,
earth.
yeah.
Yeah. So they stopped mining it because there was just too much.
Okay.
Um,
So they're trading off a dead person,
Yep.
not
My dad.
646,000.
No.
They're
Only
trading
46.
billions of dollars off that one
Billions.
person
My
still.
dad, they've
Because they haven't
traded.
taken it out of the pot.
My
And
dad,
it
Still in the
depends
pot.
on what job you do. If you're a doctor,
yes,
you'll
it's a
be
higher
But the
lot.
rate.
increase is higher.
It's a higher rate.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Also, too, guys, if you stop and look at this, ask yourself, we don't monitor our own votes in the country. We need to do this, Nat,
Yes.
with the sheriffs back under
We monitor.
the oath of the Crown and back under the Crownal instruments.
Not in
They commit
council.
fraud, they go to jail. They're punishable by a Crownal instrument law, which now is tribal law because it's LORE. However, our Crownal instruments have never gone, and both New Zealand, this is why I had to coordinate that, is because if I went to New Zealand, they took their tribal law back. They had no basis of punishment. If you're going to say the police are corrupt, you better put back a force where they're going to be under the Crown and truthful. Therefore, I put sheriffs back. I call the courts corrupt. So I had to put back a basis of a judicial system that was honest and was under the Crown. So what I did was I put back the grand juries, which is the dual courts. So that's massive research, just in that. Also too, a person must stand in their own power to stand in front of a dual court to speak their own situation, which is called tort law. Tort law means that if I have a problem, I'm going to take that man to court. Everyone has that power and that right. You'll notice my books have got spelling mistakes in them. I don't give a rat's, because it's the intentions of the word on the paper that matter. It's not how you spell them. Okay, so we're supposed to do the Queen's English. Some people are half blind like me
No
at
one
2 o'clock in
speaks
the morning.
Queen's English anyway.
Well, at 2 o'clock in the morning on my
It's
mobile
all-
phone, all this
yeah.
was developed
It's
because
all
I didn't have a
dog-related,
computer.
yeah.
I'm not going to turn around and correct the spelling when I hardly seen what I was writing, because the mobile phone the cops have got now has everything on it for 2 years. I don't give a rat's because they're getting an education on fact.
Yeah.
And the only thing on there is fact and law. So you rock your socks out and float your boat and fill your boots.
That's right.
With-
Fill your boots.
Fill your boots with them, because it's all fact. However, this gets worse, guys.
Gets worse.
It gets worse. I'm going to show you something
Wait,
here.
it's
It gets
more.
worse.
It's gonna explode.
Actually, my last video,
No,
but
don't
wait,
say that.
there's more. You don't get a set of saucepans. Okay, so you've got the gist
too
where
nice.
China's coming in, guys, okay, because Prince Charles only wants to deal with the bigger corporations, but China's saying, oops, they've done this, this and this, now it's easy to take over in the UN. they don't want a government here because they've already picked their people. There's 8 people chosen that they're going to place just to manage this in one room. How many have we got here? 5. So what happened my dad died in 1999. Say for example, when was the election year, guys?
The last
We
one?
just had one, 2022, didn't we?
We just had one now.
2022, 2018, let's do the timeline.
40.
8. Oh, 10. 2010.
2010. Well, that's usually good.
Yeah.
2006.
2006. 2002.
2002.
Yeah.
Do you
1998.
realise my dad voted in every election?
Yes. Yep, they found that use overseas too, a whole lot of dead people voting.
1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5,
Totally
6
corrupt.
election they used my dad's vote. You know why? Because you, when you got your mortgage, back to the deceit, when you did your mortgage, you signed your contract. And there was Latin words in there, 2 Latin words. If you've got an unknown in a contract, now remember this is the butcher and baker
That's a
scenario.
big job.
In the fridge.
Remember the butcher and baker scenario I did on the last video?
Yeah.
The butcher, the baker. The baker gave the bread to Mary Jane to feed her children. He grew the wheat himself and he said, Mary Jane, here's $100 worth of bread and I'll give it to you every week. You go home with your little children and love your kiddies. The butcher walked out and said, hey, you just got $100 worth of bread there. You better pay me $10 once. She goes, oh yes, I will.
Fair.
There was no contract, but the moment she said yes, I will, she consented.
That's right.
So the thuggery has come in up here with the mortgage. In your mortgage, it says it takes power of attorney, and it'll look. It's a generalisation I'm making now, but you go get your contracts of property. Now, okay, go to the Acts and Amendments Act. Here we are, we're back to criminal instruments, right? You don't have to go researching, it's all done. Acts and Amendments Act. What is it? Look, there's a year. And section, look, I'm not going to put the section in. This is my ammunition now against the common laws, this knowledge. So what we're going to do, it says property. Person. Corporation. Do you realise they married up a person to a corporation? We become an entity under them. We just become an entity. We become a vessel under the Acts and Amendments Act.
As soon as we
It's
had our name on
1845.
the birth certificate, our surname, we became a corporation, a dead entity.
So they turned us into just a piece of nothing.
Yeah, and
Well,
that's
guess
how
what?
they treat us.
And these politicians are in the same boat as us.
Yeah, they are, but they consent to it. They're dirtbrains. They're so stupid. They get hoodwinked in Parliament because we're going to be the Commons Council, which is the correct termination is the Commons Council. It's a Common Councils Act.
You've got to stop it for our future generations.
Yeah, so that's where the rot sets in. So we're now, this is it, fully out, fully exposed now. This is it. The Commons Councils Act is out now, and that's what I need you to develop up as the Senate. Because we've got to have 12 wise men watching this country so that this doesn't happen again. So if you get your Common Council up over all this, and you can call it the Council of Commons, put that through a grand jury and get it approved. The people speak, that becomes the law of the land. Now, it gets worse. What they do is when they put someone in jail, they've got their trust. Because they've got care of them every
They've
day.
got to pay for them.
That's why they want them in jail. No, they're not paying for them.
No, you are. You're
No, I'm not. These dear little pets are put in there. They're probably fleecing $1 million a day off them.
Yeah.
To have them in jail. Of the Seneca Trust.
Yep, that's right.
So they're technically using them as a trading of the flesh. So you get a parking ticket and you don't pay them, where do you go to jail?
Yeah.
The parking ticket's not a $100 ticket. It's $1 million to them. They don't want you to pay the ticket.
And it's under the guise of administration fees.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, so this is why they want the kids in jail. They're worth more dead. My dad was worth more dead to them. These doctors, nurses, everything were worth more dead to the Pope.
Baby
To the Pope and
boomers
them.
are worth more dead
Because they're doing the trading like they did on my dad. In the ground. And guess what? They don't have to pay for anything. Whereas if we're on unemployment, they have to give us $40 a day back out of the $226,000 today they made off us. They don't want the paperwork. So COVID come in to clean us out because we're worth more debt to them.
That's right.
So they don't need the houses because they're actually going to kill us off. So by taking back the properties, they're just going to flood them because they want the land and the resources. So they can do it more. Well, that's it in a nutshell, guys.
That's in a nutshell.
It was one of the reasons. The other is because they actually feel like they only need 500 million
Yes,
people in the world,
that's
and that's
right.
just how they.
So they did your mum over
Under
door.
their control.
Dwarf's mum over.
Remdesivir is a great snake.
The death
Goes into the lymphatic system through there, and I knew straight away when one of the sheriffs over in Western Australia got injected in the left arm, it came out the right arm and come under his lymph system, and he had a golf ball under his other arm.
Yeah.
Black.
lymphatic blockage.
It went straight through. Also, to remdesivir is a snake. There's another snake that
That was the biggest criminal act, you know, saying
Remdesivir.
saying that the cure for COVID is
Exactly.
remdesivir, putting
It was
people in
murder.
a freaking hospital. Exactly.
So guess what?
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So therefore, what we've got is Kevin Arnett got our decision through the international courts, guys, under natural law, which I needed, and I'll wrap it up now because there's nothing else needs to be said.
Wow.
We've got the full criminality now; it's fully exposed.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But however, we sheriffs have codes to the keys, and we're not releasing them
No way.
because that is our power
That's our
over
power.
these monsters. Is because we know the act of the crown or instrument that puts them through the judicial system.
Yeah, we'll have to do it for New Zealand.
That's
Yeah.
a lot of power for one person.
What
I see
power?
corruption. I see corruption.
Oh,
What with
yeah.
us? No,
No,
way.
not us. I'm not
We're
saying us.
never
I'm
going to
saying
be
in
corrupted.
10 years' time.
No,
No,
one
no.
get.
I see.
No,
I
no,
get
see-
What people in
Yes,
No,
see,
I-
sheriffs only, they get re-elected every year.
You do
So
something
if they
wrong, the
don't do their
community's
job,
going to sack you. They're
the
not going to put you back
Yeah, well,
in.
haven't we got a community that's corrupt?
No. You know.
I'm thinking of the worst.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario.
Actually,
Worst case scenario.
Okay,
I
so
see you.
what you're
Well,
saying
we-
is
That's a lot of power.
you
That's a lot of
think
power.
everyone.
It is.
There's no power in this.
Well, if I got-
Actually,
if I got
why
power
haven't I
to
seen
give
power?
someone millions of dollars to go.
No, you won't.
Actually, Nat.
I'll
I'll put this question to you.
Yeah.
So I seen this 2 years ago. Why didn't I just go after my trust?
No, because you're not.
No, I
I'm not
will.
talking about you.
But
I'm
you
talking
won't
about-
either.
I've
I'm
been
talking about
working
someone
on it
who's
for a
in
couple
there.
of years.
Huh?
I've been working on this one, so I found out there was one. I've been working on it too. It's not
See,
as
and this
easy
is
as
where
what you think.
New Zealand and
But once
Australia
it's worked out
united.
and you got
Well,
people who
it's
know,
still,
everyone can be bought. I'm
No
worried
one's
about that.
trading off my dad in this story, and no one's trading off my children. If I was to bury my child
First
today,
you-
no one's trading off my child. Now, we have little Gracie. Where is she? So they're trading off our children in a different way. We don't go down that rabbit hole, but the
You've got to
sheriffs
think of
will.
worst
The
case
sheriffs
scenario
will.
too.
Yeah.
The sheriffs will.
We need backup.
Back up with what?
I'm
first,
saying.
well, see, you've got your Council of Commons.
Council of
to
Commons.
go through a